Explore the tumultuous life of a mafia boss, daunting yet alluring to those who like to live life on the edge. Media fascination fuels their fame, immortalized in blockbusters, some featuring the lives of men like Al Capone or Lucky Luciano. Mafia bosses exist in a world of power, loyalty, and organized crime, where intricate webs of influence define their existence. A world where loyalty comes at a price and alliances are forged with blood. The Mafia and its structure. In the annals of organized crime, one name reverberates through the ages: the Mafia. For decades, this clandestine network of criminal syndicates has captivated the public's imagination, entwining fact and fiction in a mesmerizing dance. But what exactly is the Mafia? The Mafia, also known as organized crime or the Cosa Nostra, is a secretive and powerful criminal organization that operates on a global scale. It has a long and complex history, dating back several centuries, and has gained notoriety for its involvement in various illicit activities, including but not limited to extortion, drug trafficking, gambling, money laundering, and murder. At its core, the Mafia is a hierarchical and tightly knit criminal network that operates under a strict code of conduct known as omerta. This code emphasizes loyalty, secrecy, and a steadfast refusal to cooperate with law enforcement. The consequences of violating the code, betraying the family, or failing to follow orders can be dire, often resulting in the ultimate penalty: death. Such strict enforcement of secrecy and loyalty serves multiple purposes, safeguarding the organization's survival and shielding it from the prying eyes of law enforcement. The organization is structured into distinct families or clans, each with its own boss, capos, soldiers, and associates. But it's more than just a criminal enterprise. It's a way of life. Loyalty to the family and adherence to the hierarchy are highly valued, with severe consequences for betrayal or disloyalty. The origins of the Mafia can be traced back to Sicily, Italy, where it emerged as a response to social, political, and economic instability. In Sicilian society, the Mafia initially played a role in providing justice, protection, and a sense of order in the absence of effective governance. Over time, it evolved into a criminal enterprise, exploiting various industries and exerting control over local communities through fear, violence, and corruption. In the early 20th century, waves of Italian immigrants brought the Mafia to the United States, where it thrived in cities like New York, Chicago, and Las Vegas. It established a significant presence and influenced various sectors of society, including politics, labor unions, and legitimate businesses. The American Mafia operated through a system of families, with powerful bosses leading their respective organizations and exerting control over their territories. Central to the Mafia's operations is a hierarchical structure resembling a pyramid, with the boss sitting atop the power structure. Beneath the boss, there are various ranks, such as underbosses, capos, and soldiers. Each member has a specific role and responsibility, contributing to the overall strength and influence of the organization. The Mafia's primary activities revolve around illegal enterprises, including but not limited to drug trafficking, extortion, gambling, and loan sharking. These criminal pursuits generate enormous profits, which are meticulously distributed among the members, solidifying their allegiance and ensuring the organization's continued growth. One of the hallmarks of the Mafia is its code of silence, known as omerta. This strict vow of silence binds members together, prohibiting them from cooperating with law enforcement or divulging any information that could jeopardize the organization. Betrayal is met with swift and merciless retribution. Throughout history, the Mafia has proven to be a powerful force, capable of infiltrating governments, businesses, and even influencing societal norms. Yet, it remains shrouded in mystery, with its inner workings veiled from public view. Since it's nearly impossible for such organizations to have lasted this long, literally centuries, without a solid power structure, one can be certain that the Mafia has a really strong and effective structure, one that ensures its continuous prosperity. They certainly do, and it's quite the solid foundation to be sure. A typical Mafia organization follows a hierarchical structure that is designed to maintain order, loyalty, and control over its operations. At the pinnacle of the structure sits the boss, also known as the Don, who is the ultimate authority and makes crucial decisions for the organization. The boss wields immense power, both within the Mafia and in its external dealings. Directly beneath the boss are the underbosses, who act as the second in command. They assist the boss in managing the organization and can step in to assume leadership in the boss's absence. Underbosses oversee specific territories or operations, ensuring the smooth functioning of various illicit activities. Below the underbosses are the capos, or captains, who are responsible for individual crews or families within the organization. Each capo leads a group of soldiers, who are the foot soldiers of the Mafia. Capos hold significant influence over their crew members, providing guidance, protection, and coordination of criminal activities activities. The soldiers, also known as made men, form the backbone of the mafia. They carry out orders from their capos, execute tasks such as collecting protection money, engaging in illegal enterprises, and enforcing the mafia's rules and codes of conduct. Soldiers earn their rank through a ceremony known as making their bones, which involves committing a serious crime on behalf of the organization. Alongside the hierarchical structure, the mafia often has various support roles. These include consiglieres, who serve as trusted advisors to the boss, providing counsel on important decisions. The consigliere is considered a voice of reason within the organization. Additionally, there may be enforcers who specialize in carrying out acts of violence or intimidation on behalf of the mafia. The severe consequences of disloyalty or betrayal act as a deterrent, reinforcing the importance of maintaining discipline within the ranks. Members understand that their actions have far-reaching consequences, not only for themselves but for the entire organization. The fear of reprisal and the knowledge that one's life hangs in the balance reinforces loyalty, fostering a culture of obedience and unwavering commitment. At its core, the disciplined and unyielding nature of a mafia organization serves as a near impenetrable defensive shield against external threats like law enforcement or rival mafia organizations. By upholding a strict code of silence and demanding unwavering loyalty, the organization erects formidable barriers that deter law enforcement and safeguard its illicit pursuits. The high stakes and severe consequences for disloyalty serve as a constant reminder to members of the paramount importance of loyalty and obedience. The consequences for betrayal goes as far as execution. These principles ensure the survival and prosperity of the mafia, fostering an environment where trust and unity prevail amidst the ever-present dangers lurking around every corner. Through its unwavering cohesion and collective commitment, the mafia thrives, perpetuating its clandestine legacy through generations. Even to this very day, different groups may adopt their own unique systems. However, the core principles of hierarchy, loyalty, and division of responsibilities remain constant across most mafia organizations. The role of a mafia boss. The role of a mafia boss is one of immense power, influence, and responsibility within the criminal organization. As the ultimate authority, the boss holds the reins of control and decision-making, overseeing all aspects of the mafia's operations. Let's delve into the multifaceted responsibilities of a mafia boss. First and foremost, a mafia boss is responsible for setting the strategic direction of the organization. They make critical decisions regarding the expansion of criminal activities, the establishment of new territories, and the identification of lucrative ventures. This involves analyzing potential risks, evaluating opportunities, and charting the course for the mafia's growth and profitability. When it comes to sharing these profits, the boss takes the largest slice of the pie, with many bosses capable of raking in millions of dollars a month, quite a staggering amount. Additionally, the boss ensures the enforcement of the mafia's code of conduct. They maintain discipline within the organization, ensuring that members adhere to the strict rules, codes of silence, and loyalty. Violations of the code, acts of betrayal, or any threat to the stability of the organization must be swiftly dealt with, often through severe punishments, to maintain control and order. Interactions between a mafia boss and rival organizations can be a delicate dance, influenced by a range of factors unique to the criminal underworld. While conflicts and competition are inherent in this world, wise bosses understand the benefits of maintaining a level of peace and avoiding unnecessary fighting. They recognize that constant bloodshed only attracts unwanted attention from law enforcement and threatens the stability of their criminal enterprises. To navigate this treacherous landscape, a savvy mafia boss may choose to engage in negotiations with rival organizations. These discussions aim to establish mutually beneficial agreements that allow for coexistence and the pursuit of common interests. Such negotiations might involve dividing territories to minimize conflicts, allocating resources to maximize profits, or even forming temporary alliances for specific operations that require a joint effort. Diplomacy becomes the weapon of choice for these bosses, as they seek to avoid unnecessary violence while safeguarding their own interests. Trusted intermediaries play a crucial role in facilitating these discussions, serving as the bridge between rival factions. These intermediaries help establish lines of communication, mediate disputes, and find common ground. By opting for a diplomatic approach, mafia bosses can mitigate the risks associated with open warfare. They recognize that excessive violence only invites unwanted attention from law enforcement and jeopardizes their criminal enterprises. Instead, they choose choose to foster a climate of relative stability and cooperation, allowing each organization to pursue its illicit activities with less interference. However, it's important to note that these negotiations can be fragile, as trust is often in short supply among criminal factions. The delicate balance of power can shift quickly, leading to the breakdown of agreements and renewed hostilities. Thus, even while striving for peaceful interactions, mafia bosses must remain vigilant and prepared for any unforeseen challenges that may arise. The absence of peaceful conflict resolution strategies can lead to war between rival mafia organizations. A case in point is the Castellamarese War that took place in the early 1930s. It was a violent conflict within the American mafia that erupted due to a lack of proper conflict resolution. The conflict arose from a power struggle over control of the criminal activities in New York City and the broader East Coast. Mafia bosses Maranzano and Masseria sought to establish dominance and consolidate power within the mafia, but their differing approaches and ambitions fueled tensions that ultimately escalated into a full-blown war. The aftermath of this war led to the establishment of the Mafia Commission, whose primary responsibility is to mediate disputes between crime families. The commission mostly consists of mafia bosses. In addition to their other responsibilities, a mafia boss oversees the financial operations of the organization. They manage the distribution of profits, ensuring that funds are allocated appropriately to sustain the organization's activities, reward loyalty, and finance future endeavors. The boss must possess a keen sense of business acumen, capable of overseeing various illicit enterprises such as drug trafficking, gambling, extortion, and money laundering. The boss plays a pivotal role in establishing and maintaining the organizational structure of the mafia. They appoint underbosses and capos, delegating authority and dividing territories or operations among them. By carefully selecting trusted individuals, the boss ensures the smooth functioning of the organization and fosters a sense of loyalty and unity among its members. Another crucial responsibility of a mafia boss is managing external threats. They must anticipate and mitigate risks posed by law enforcement agencies and potential informants. This involves gathering intelligence, implementing countermeasures, and employing a network of informants to stay one step ahead of their adversaries. The boss serves as the public face of the organization, interacting with members, associates, and external parties. They exhibit charisma, leadership, and the ability to inspire loyalty, commanding respect from their subordinates. Additionally, the boss may act as a mediator, resolving internal conflicts and ensuring that disputes between members are settled peacefully and discreetly. The boss acts like a CEO of sorts. The only difference between a mafia boss's activities and a conventional CEO would be the kind of businesses both of them undertake. While a normal, clean-cut CEO deals in legal activity, a mafia boss is mainly shrouded in mystery and a ton of conspiracies. The most successful mob bosses possess strong leadership qualities. They can inspire loyalty, manage a complex hierarchy, and make critical decisions with authority. In addition to being natural leaders, mafia bosses excel in interpersonal skills and possess a charismatic charm that allows them to manipulate others to their advantage. They can sway opinions, gain the trust of associates, and influence individuals within their network. The best mafia bosses are also highly adaptable and flexible in their approach. They can quickly adjust their strategies to respond to changing circumstances, such as law enforcement crackdowns, rivalries, or shifts in criminal activities. Mob bosses often have a long-term vision for their criminal enterprises. They plan for sustainable growth, diversify their illicit activities, and invest in operations that provide long-term profitability and influence. Mafia bosses embody the epitome of power, balancing authority, cunning, and control to protect the organization, secure its profits, and expand its influence. The position of a mafia boss is fraught with danger, requiring astute decision-making, foresight, and an unwavering commitment to the code of honor and secrecy. Famous mafia bosses. Now, we can't talk about the life of mafia bosses without talking about actual bosses. Over the years, the world of organized crime has seen various leaders take the stage. These men have shaped the underworld of crime and left an indelible mark on history. From the notorious Al Capone to the power-hungry Vito Genovese, these mafia bosses have captivated the public's imagination with their cunning, ruthlessness, and larger-than-life personas. Each boss represents a different era and region, from the Prohibition-era gangsters of Chicago to the power players players of the Sicilian Cosa Nostra. Let's take a look at a few of these bosses and what their reign was like. First, we have Al Capone. As far as American crime goes, few names loom as large as Al Capone, the infamous Scarface, who became synonymous with the Prohibition-era's excesses and lawlessness. Born in 1899 in Brooklyn, New York, Capone's journey from a streetwise kid to the kingpin of organized crime in Chicago is the stuff of legend. Rising through the ranks of the criminal underworld, he eventually assumed the helm of the notorious Chicago outfit. Capone's criminal empire thrived on illegal activities such as bootlegging, gambling dens, and prostitution rings. His ruthless reputation and extravagant lifestyle captivated the public's imagination, earning him both fear and begrudging admiration. The Roaring Twenties was the backdrop to his reign, where opulent mansions, flashy cars, and high-end establishments were the trappings of his power. However, the feds eventually caught up with Capone. In 1931, he was convicted not for his violent crimes, but for the seemingly less glamorous offense of tax evasion. Sentenced to nearly a decade in federal prison, Capone's downfall marked the end of an era characterized by brazen criminality and illicit pleasures. Despite his imprisonment and subsequent decline, Al Capone's name lives on as an enduring symbol of organized crime's golden age. His larger-than-life persona and the cultural mythology surrounding him continue to fascinate generations, solidifying his place in the pantheon of legendary mafia bosses. Another infamous mob boss is John Gotti. John Gotti, the charismatic and flamboyant Teflon Don, made his mark as the boss of the Gambino crime family in 1980s New York City. Born in the Bronx in 1940, Gotti swiftly ascended the ranks of the Gambino family, solidifying his reputation as one of the most formidable mafia bosses in the city. Gotti's larger-than-life persona captured the public's attention. He became a tabloid fixture, strutting in his expensive suits, holding court in public places, and willingly engaging with the media. His swagger and confidence drew both fascination and notoriety. However, Gotti's reign was marred by violence and betrayal. He ordered multiple killings to eliminate rivals and maintain his grip on power. The dapper Don ruled with an iron fist, earning both respect and fear from those within his crime family and the wider underworld. In 1992, Gotti's luck finally ran out. He was convicted on charges of murder, racketeering, and other crimes, leading to a life sentence without the possibility of parole. Gotti's impact on American mafia lore remains undeniable. His larger-than-life personality, media savvy, and infamous downfall continue to captivate popular culture. Next, we have Salvatore Riina, infamously known as the Beast. He was the ruthless head of the Sicilian Mafia, Cosa Nostra, during the 1980s and 1990s. Born in 1930 in the town of Corleone, Sicily, Riina climbed the ranks of the Mafia through a reign of terror and unrelenting brutality. Renowned for his involvement in orchestrating the murders of anti-mafia prosecutors, judges, and politicians, Riina unleashed a wave of violence that claimed the lives of countless law enforcement officials and innocent civilians. His brazen tactics and complete disregard for human life solidified his reputation as one of the most feared and dangerous mafia bosses in history. Despite managing to evade capture for years, Riina's luck eventually ran out. In 1993, he was apprehended by authorities and subsequently convicted of multiple murders. The sentence handed down was a life term in prison, marking a significant victory for the Italian authorities in their relentless pursuit of justice against organized crime. Salvatore Riina's reign of terror stands as a stark reminder of the depths to which mafia bosses are willing to descend in their quest for power and control. His legacy serves as a chilling testament to the enduring influence and destructive capabilities of Cosa Nostra. Yet another popular figure in the world of organized crime is Meyer Lansky. Lansky was born in 1902 in Grodno, Belarus, was a central figure in the realm of American organized crime. Renowned as the mob's accountant, Lansky possessed a rare financial acumen that played a pivotal role in the formation and expansion of the National Crime Syndicate, an intricate network that connected various criminal organizations across the United States. Lansky's influence extended beyond traditional mafia activities. He was a key player in the world of gambling operations, bootlegging, and money laundering. His sharp business instincts and proficiency with numbers made him an invaluable asset to the criminal underworld. In contrast to other mafia bosses, Lansky preferred to operate from the shadows, shunning the limelight and maintaining a low-profile existence. He focused on meticulously building and managing highly lucrative criminal enterprises, ensuring consistent profits while minimizing the risks associated with violent confrontations. Remarkably, despite his deep involvement in organized crime, Lansky eluded significant convictions throughout his life. He spent his later years in semi-retirement, residing in the sun-soaked city of Miami Beach, Florida, until his passing in 1983. Next, we have Vito Genovese, an influential figure in the American Mafia who led a life defined by power, cunning, and violence. Born Born on November 21, 1897 in Resigliano, Italy, Genovese emigrated to the United States at a young age and eventually rose through the ranks to become one of the most notorious mob bosses in American history. Genovese became an integral part of the Italian-American underworld, particularly in New York City. He aligned himself with prominent mob figures such as Lucky Luciano and played a significant role in the establishment of the National Crime Syndicate, known for his strategic thinking and meticulous planning. Genovese was involved in a wide range of criminal activities, including bootlegging during Prohibition, illegal gambling, narcotics trafficking, and labor racketeering. He commanded immense respect and instilled fear among his subordinates, employing a combination of charisma and brutality to maintain control over his criminal empire. Genovese's thirst for power ultimately led to his downfall. In 1957, he orchestrated the assassination of Albert Anastasia, a rival mob boss, in an attempt to consolidate his power. However, his actions drew the attention of law enforcement, leading to his indictment on narcotics charges. In 1959, Genovese was convicted and sentenced to 15 years in federal prison. He spent the remainder of his life behind bars, where he continued to exert influence over the Mafia through his connections and strategic alliances. Dangers of being the boss. Being a Mafia boss entails a life filled with treacherous paths, constant threats, and unforgiving challenges. Occupying the pinnacle of power within the criminal underworld is perilous in nature. There are inherent dangers that Mafia bosses face on a daily basis, risks with a high chance of jeopardizing their personal safety, freedom, and the well-being of their loved ones. From rivalries and internal power struggles to the relentless pursuit of law enforcement, many dangers encapsulate a dark and hazardous existence that accompanies the pursuit of criminal power. Rivalries and internal power struggles pose significant dangers to a Mafia boss, threatening their position, influence, and personal safety. These conflicts within the criminal organization can lead to dire consequences for the boss. Rivalries within the criminal hierarchy can emerge when ambitious subordinates seek to challenge the boss's authority or expand their own influence. These power struggles put the boss's position at risk, as rival factions may plot against them, aiming to seize control of the organization. The boss must navigate these internal rivalries, constantly asserting their dominance and preserving their power base. Power struggles can give rise to disloyalty and betrayal within the ranks. Ambitious individuals may collude with rival factions or inform law enforcement, leading to the boss's exposure and potential downfall. The boss must remain vigilant, discerning potential threats, and monitoring the loyalty of their subordinates to prevent betrayal that could compromise their position or result in violent retaliation. Internal power struggles can escalate into acts of violence as rival factions vie for dominance. The desire to eliminate a rival and seize control may lead to assassinations or attempts on the boss's life. The boss must constantly assess threats, anticipate attacks, and take proactive measures to ensure personal safety and survival. A fine example of how dangerous internal rivalries directly threaten the life of the boss is the case of Paul Castellano. Castellano's leadership was marked by his emphasis on white-collar criminal activities and a focus on business interests, which differed from the traditional approach of previous mob bosses. This change in strategy and his personal demeanor led to internal divisions and dissent within the Gambino family. In 1985, Castellano's reign came to a violent end when he was gunned down outside Sparks Steakhouse in Manhattan. The assassination was orchestrated by John Gotti, a powerful member of the Gambino family who saw Castellano as weak and out of touch. Gotti's faction within the family sought to take control and eliminate Castellano, leading to a violent internal power struggle. The story of Paul Castellano and other mob bosses that have been murdered as a result of internal conflict illustrates the dangers of internal conflicts and power struggles within the Mafia. These rivalries can lead to acts of violence and ultimately result in the downfall and death of influential bosses. Another bane of a Mafia boss's existence is, of course, law enforcement. Law enforcement agencies pose a significant and constant threat to Mafia bosses, seeking to dismantle organized crime and bring them to justice. The efforts of law enforcement can seriously jeopardize the power, operations, and personal freedom of Mafia bosses. Law enforcement agencies employ a wide range of sophisticated investigative techniques to gather evidence and monitor the activities of organized crime figures, including Mafia bosses. Wiretapping, a commonly used method, allows authorities to intercept and record conversations, providing valuable insights into the criminal activities and networks of bosses and their associates. Informants, individuals with insider knowledge, can provide crucial information, acting as sources within the organization or facilitating undercover operations. Undercover operations play a crucial role in law enforcement efforts against organized crime. Undercover agents infiltrate criminal organizations, gaining the trust of members and gathering evidence to build strong cases. These covert operatives engage in surveillance, participate in criminal activities, and gather intelligence that can be used to expose the operations and illegal practices of mafia bosses. The constant scrutiny imposed by law enforcement makes it increasingly challenging for mafia bosses to conduct illegal activities without the risk of detection and arrest. Law enforcement agencies work closely with prosecutors to build strong cases that can lead to convictions. This collaboration involves gathering extensive evidence, interviewing witnesses, and presenting a compelling narrative to the court. Prosecutions often target the top leadership of criminal organizations, including mafia bosses, with the aim of dismantling the hierarchy and disrupting their operations. When a mafia boss is convicted and sentenced to a lengthy prison term, their removal from power can significantly impact the criminal organization. The loss of leadership and the ensuing power vacuum can create internal divisions, power struggles, and a sense of instability within the organization. This disruption hampers the ability of the criminal organization to carry out its illicit activities effectively, weakening its infrastructure and diminishing the influence of the boss. The relentless pursuit of law enforcement, bolstered by their extensive investigative techniques, collaboration with prosecutors, and commitment to bringing criminal figures to justice, presents a significant and ongoing threat to mafia bosses. The ever-evolving methods employed by law enforcement agencies ensure that the risks of engaging in organized crime activities are high, and the consequences for mafia bosses can be severe. Mafia bosses are often trapped in a world with limited exit strategies, making their circumstances increasingly precarious. Once deeply entangled in the web of organized crime, the possibilities for a graceful exit become incredibly slim. Retirement from the criminal organization itself is a perilous proposition, as former bosses are viewed as potential liabilities or, worse yet, potential informants by their successors. The fear of retribution or being perceived as a threat keeps them locked in a perpetual cycle of criminality. In truth, the available exit strategies for mafia bosses are bleak at best. Incarceration looms as a constant threat, with law enforcement agencies tirelessly pursuing criminal leaders to bring them to justice. The prospect of imprisonment represents a loss of freedom and power, stripping away the lavish lifestyle and authority they once enjoyed. Alternatively, the path of death shadows mafia bosses at every turn. In a world defined by violence and treachery, rivals and even members of their own organization may see eliminating a boss as a means to seize power or settle scores. Constantly looking over their shoulders, bosses must navigate a treacherous landscape where betrayal can come from the most unexpected sources. The rarest of outcomes, yet a possibility nonetheless, is the complete collapse of the organization itself. Internal power struggles, external pressure from law enforcement, or the erosion of loyalty among subordinates can lead to the disintegration of the once mighty criminal empire. While this scenario may offer a slim chance of escape, it often comes at a great cost, causing chaos and upheaval within the criminal underworld. The romanticized notions of a glamorous retirement or a peaceful transition into a legitimate life are shattered by the grim reality they face. The world of organized crime demands a high price, leaving many bosses trapped in a cycle of violence, mistrust, and an uncertain fate. Mafia bosses, old versus modern. The world of organized crime has witnessed significant changes throughout history, leading to the emergence of distinct types of mafia bosses. Old-school mafia bosses, who operated during the early to mid-20th century, differed in many ways from their modern counterparts. Old-school mafia bosses operated within a highly structured and hierarchical organization. They adhered to rigid traditions and rules with a clear chain of command. The hierarchical system was often based on ethnic or family ties, with bosses serving as the ultimate authority within their respective families or clans. Their power and control extended over a well-defined territory. In contrast, modern mafia bosses have witnessed a transformation in organizational structure. The rise of globalization, changes in societal dynamics, and law enforcement strategies have necessitated a more flexible and decentralized approach. The modern mafia may operate as a loosely connected network where individual criminal enterprises collaborate on specific ventures. Power may be distributed among various leaders, with less emphasis on a single dominant boss. Old-school bosses were like the wise grandpas of the mob, reminiscing about the good old days of mafia activities. They were the kings of traditional crime, sipping espresso and exchanging stories of how they controlled entire industries. It's as if they had a secret recipe for criminal success passed down from generation to generation. Ah, the protection racket days when the local baker had to pay them off with cannoli profits. Talk about a sweet deal. But the modern era of mafia bosses is here, and they've taken diversification to a whole new level. These guys are like the entrepreneurs of the underworld, expanding their criminal horizons faster than you can say illegal monopoly. It's like they've opened a one-stop shop for all your criminal needs. Need drugs? They've got a corner on that market. Looking for some heavy artillery? They've got a guy who knows a guy. Human trafficking? Well, they're unfortunately in that business too. The mafia bosses have turned crime into a multinational corporation. They've got their fingers in more pies than a hungry mobster at a bakery. Think of it like they're playing a twisted version of Monopoly, acquiring illegal properties and expanding their empire. But instead of passing go and collecting $200, they're passing off contraband and collecting stacks of dirty cash. Another contrast lies in the fact that old-school bosses were the ultimate micromanagers of the underworld. They had their hands in nearly every illicit business, making sure things ran like a well-oiled criminal machine. They were like those grumpy bosses who hovered over the office coffee machine, ensuring everyone followed their precise instructions. 2 sugar cubes, no more, no less. They ruled through fear and intimidation, and harsh discipline to a disobedient henchman was their way of maintaining order. On the other hand, modern mafia bosses have embraced the principles of effective leadership and delegation. They've learned that they can't be the expert in everything, except maybe in the art of evading law enforcement. They assemble a dream team of specialists to tackle specific criminal tasks. Need a hacker to break into the Pentagon's database? They've got a guy who can do it while eating a slice of pizza. Want a counterfeit Picasso painting that's so convincing even art experts will be fooled? They know just the artist who can paint it with a flick of their brush. These modern bosses are like the maestros of crime, conducting their criminal symphony with a touch of finesse and a pinch of mischief. They are street savvy and have a deep understanding of the criminal landscape, though this is a trait they share with their counterparts from the 1900s. These bosses possess a keen intuition and ability to navigate the complexities of the underworld, relying on their instincts and experience to outsmart their rivals. Old-school bosses were like reclusive hermits, avoiding the limelight like a vampire dodging sunlight. They knew that unnecessary attention could attract the snooping eyes of law enforcement faster, exceedingly fast. Apparently, it wasn't very common to see notorious mob bosses out and about. It was like catching a glimpse of a mythical creature, a glimpse that only the chosen few were privileged to witness. However, over the years, things have changed quite a bit. Modern mafia bosses have taken a page out of the celebrity playbook. They've upgraded their game by hiring their very own entourage of PR firms and image consultants to present themselves as legitimate businessmen or philanthropists. They've mastered the art of social media. You'll find their profiles flooded with filtered photos of partying in luxurious locations, making you wonder if they're in the mafia or running a lifestyle blog. And don't even get me started on their photo shoots. They've perfected the smoldering gaze that could rival the covers of Vogue. Now let's talk about the law enforcement challenges that these mafia bosses face. In the olden days, it was all about gumshoe detective techniques, wiretapping, informants, and surveillance. Detectives were like bloodhounds sniffing out the scent of crime, relentlessly pursuing the elusive bosses through whispers and shadows. It was a game of cat and mouse that kept both sides on their toes. But modern mafia bosses face a whole new level of challenge. They've got to navigate a world filled with advanced surveillance technologies, encrypted messages, and international cooperation among law enforcement agencies. It's like playing a high-stakes game of Where's Waldo, but with governments hunting down criminal Waldos every move. Modern bosses have had to adapt to these changes because, apparently, it's difficult to outrun a drone while carrying a suitcase full of counterfeit bills. In terms of influence and power, mafia bosses of both eras wield significant influence and power, albeit in different ways. Old-school bosses exerted their control over specific territories and industries, leveraging their connections and intimidating rivals to protect their interests. Modern bosses, with their global reach and sophisticated operations, expand their influence through alliances, financial prowess, and technological savvy. Despite the shift in their methods, both types of bosses seek to maximize their power and maintain control over their criminal empires. Being a mafia boss is often romanticized and glamorized in popular culture, but the reality is far from the fictional portrayals. People often picture mafia bosses as super-rich individuals who are invincible and have the whole world at their fingertips. While some mafia bosses may accumulate wealth and enjoy a luxurious lifestyle, it comes at a significant cost. They constantly live in fear of betrayal, face the constant threat of violence from rivals or law enforcement, and have to constantly navigate complex legal and illegal operations. The mob life is not as glamorous as one might imagine, and it's a life well worth avoiding. Best to just stick to the good old-fashioned legal jobs and avoid all the complications and risks that come with mob life. If you enjoyed this video, click on the card on your screen for more content like this. See you next time.